Hello. It's a continuation of the Volley library, and in this video, as we have inserted data and fetched that data from the database, and we have shown that data on a recycler view. In this video, now we are gonna edit this data. Suppose I want to change this name, radio developers, and if I want to change the email, I have to edit it, right? So to edit that, first we have to click on that item. So most simple way to click on the item is to implement the on-click method in bind view holder method of our adapter class, right? Here. So first of all, I have to make some change before going there. In data activity class, uh, in adapter, I have given an application context. We don't need to give application context here. We have to give the context of this activity. So we are gonna give data activity dot this, right? So now go back to RCV adapter class. To implement on click method, we write inside on bind view holder, we write holder dot item view dot set on click listener, new on click listener, and inside it we're gonna pass an ID from the array list that we are getting from our database, right? So how we can get the ID, as we can see in the user class, we have name, email, and ID, and we have setter and getter method for ID as well. So in RCV adapter class, we are getting name by using user.getName. So in a similar way, we can get an ID by writing user dot get ID here, right? So we are gonna pass this ID to a different activity where we'll edit our data and we'll upload that data to edited different data to our database, right? So let's create an activity first. uh, Empty activity. I'm gonna name it edit activity, and I don't need this too, so finish. And to create a layout file, I'm gonna copy the layout from our main activity. I'm gonna copy whole thing, actually let's copy everything and paste it here in edit activity.xml. And I don't need this button to see data, right? Okay, and I'm gonna change ID to edit email, yeah, and edit name. Then for button, we're gonna give ID as edit submit, and instead of submit we'll write edit, right? So that's it. Let's map these three things to our Java class edit activity. We have to edit text, so private edit text ed1 and ed2, and we have a button, so private button, right? So ed1 equals to find view by id r dot id dot edit name, and ed2 equals to find view by id r dot id dot email, edit email. And then for button, find view by id r dot id dot edit submit, right? Now on button, on click listener dot set on click listener, new on click listener, we are gonna get an ID that we have passed from our RCV adapter. So let's pass this ID first. So I'm gonna make an intent equals to new intent and we'll pass context here, and the activity, edit activity dot class. Then in intent dot put extra, and the key will be id, and the value of that will be this user dot get id, right? I'm just gonna copy this from here, and don't forget to delete the semicolon. And now start activity, context dot start activity, context dot start activity, and pass intent in that. And you can write the same 3 lines in a single line as well. How? So you can write context dot start activity new intent context edit activity dot class and dot put extra id and user dot get id, right? Both way is simple and both ways are similar, so it's up to you how you write it, right? So now we have to catch this intent in our edit activity. So to catch that, first of all, let me take a string id will be get intent dot get string extra, and name will be id. So I'm gonna toast it and I'll pass id in it. So let's see if our id is coming or not. As we can see in the database, the id of this value, this data is 1. So we have to check whether 1 is being toasted or not. So let's run our application and see if it's working. So go to C data and click on this. So nothing's here. So let me see. Take it out of the on click and paste it down here. And wait. Yes, it's showing. I forgot to click on the button. Yes, so we are getting the value 1, so we don't have to write it out of the on click method here. So now we are having this id, so we want to fire a query to our database that with this id I want to change a name or email, right? So let's first of all take name and email. So let's take string name equals to ed1 dot set text, get text dot toString, and same way string email will be ed2, right? So now we can call a method update values, and we can pass it id, name and email, and we can create a method in this activity. So we don't need this toast anymore, we are getting id. So let's create first of all we need a url, string url equals to, I'm gonna keep it blank for now, and let's create string request equals to new string request. We need a method, so request dot method dot post will pass url and new response listener, and here we'll pass error listener, new error listener. Now we have to pass our data in the form of hash map. So don't forget semicolon here. To create hash map, we write protected hash map will be string get params, and we will throw an exception of auth failure error, right? And instead which we create a hash map object map equals to new hash map, and we'll put all the values inside our map.put id will be id, and we have to make everything final here in order to access it in our map, right? Final, sorry, and final. Again map.put name and name, map.put email and email, and we'll return our map. Return map, right? Now we have to create request queue equals to volley dot new request queue this, right? Now don't forget to add string request in request queue, so request queue dot add string request. Now we have to make an API for it, so go to our text editor and make a new file, and we'll call it edit.user.php, right? So open PHP block, include our db.php file. We are getting 3 values in post, so one is id equals to $_post id, second one is name equals to $_post name, and the third is email equals to $_post email, right? Now we have to write query equals to update, the table name is user, right? So user, you know what, let me just copy the query from SQL here, update, and let me just copy it and paste it right here. Update user set id, we don't need to set id here. We'll set name as $name, and we'll set email as $email. Don't forget these commas because we are passing string values here, so we'll need commas, right? Where id equals to $id. Now that's it. We have to make another variable, result equals to my sqli underscore query, and we pass connection variable and our query variable. If $result, we echo data updated, else we echo error occurred, right? So here's our API. So if I go in this demo, and here we have edit user.php, so let's copy this URL and go to our edit.activity and paste that URL here and edit user.php, right? So now that's it. I think everything's done. We're gonna log to check if everything's okay or not. Response and response, and we will just copy this and paste it right here. Error dot get message, right? Or you can just write plus error. So let's run our application and check if we are able to edit these values in our database or not, right? So let's check it. Run our application. Okay, so see data, then click on the data, and I'm gonna write gray and gray123@gmail.com, right? So edit, and let's check in our database if this value is changed or not. As you can see, it is changed, but the email value is here in name and name value is here on email. So we have to check what happened, and let's something's wrong with ID, I reckon. So edit name is ed1 and we are passing it. Let's see, it's not main activity, it is edit activity. Edit email, yes, here we have to change edit name, and here will be edit email. So that's it. Now we saw that our data is passing and updating in our database, but now we have to pass intent to our data activity to go back to our recycler view, right? So after this request queue, we write start activity new intent, and we'll pass import edit activity dot this and data activity dot class, right? I don't know why activity, not activities, activity. So I'm sorry. Let's run our application again and see if that name and email error is resolved or not. So in the database, name is gray123 and email is gray, right? So I'm gonna change it back to gray developers as name and gray developer 618@gmail.com as email. So let's run our application. Okay, so go to see data and then this. Now we write gray developers and gray developer 618@gmail.com. Now click on edit, and it will take us back to this recycler row where we can see the values are updated here, right? So in the database as well, values are updated. So this is how you edit the values using Volley library. So in the next video we'll see how we can delete these values using Volley as well, right? So this is it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.